Hello there, Bic Benedict here. We're playing Uncharted The Lost Legacy, and this is my crushing difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on chapter 9 of 9. It is entitled The End of the Line. So this is a fairly longish chapter, only because I chose to do stealth rather than shooting. So it's going to be taking a little bit longer, but since, as was mentioned at the beginning of the walkthrough and other times during the walkthrough, this is a stealth-focused walkthrough. I decided to do the stealth. Now, there's a caveat about the stealth because we are on a train, and yes, it harkens back to the train sections from Uncharted 2, which were magnificent, but they were a little bit awkward. Now, it's even more awkward on this because when you do get the alert, you don't have to worry about it because enemies, because it's such a constrained environment, enemies will resume. Not only will they resume their normal course of their routes and their paths, but when they do suspect something and they hear something or see something, the latter more likely, but you know what I mean, they will not deviate too much from their path at all, so you don't have to worry about them moving around too much looking for you. In fact, sometimes they'll just notice something, but they won't even hardly move an inch, so you don't have to like go out of your way to hide. But the first stealth section, thankfully, is the only stealth section for me, in my opinion, because I'm always given to overestimating how how long things take when I sit down and try to calculate how many hours it took. So I don't really have a guess too much about how long this took, but it was what held up the guide from publication a few days later than I wanted it to, only because this part was really causing me a lot of exasperation and joyless gameplay. And I love this chapter, though. I've always remarked, if they could just have this chapter in 60, this would be like the best chapter ever. And it really is a fantastic chapter. But when you are butting your head against stealth and trying to make everything work, when sometimes there's random variables that happen, well, not sometimes, but when just things can go strangely, and you can get spawns that are erratic. But back there is the checkpoint, and you're not going to get a checkpoint for a very long time. So on this first part, you're going to notice that a heavy climbs the car up there, and you never want him to stay up there. His ordinary thing that he does is that he will climb up there, and then he will climb back down into the next train carriage. Now, the reason I didn't snag the beret guy is because he was a little bit too close to the other enemies. If you kill him back here, you're pretty safe. But the top of this train carriage has a sniper. Now, he converses with one of the enemies down below. So if you do kill him up here, they will know that something's afoot. Just based on the fact that you've interrupted their conversation, because there's a hole in that top of the car. Now, I took care of him that way, and then I'm going to take care of this heavy over here by the window. Now, just remember that if you haven't killed the sniper, at this point he can see you through the hole in the roof, but he really isn't the problem. If you ever do get like a heavy up here that won't budge, even through a reset of checkpoints, what you can do is just exit to the main menu and then go back into the game. And if that doesn't work, just quit out of the game, close the software, reopen it, and then you will get it back to how it normally functions. But sometimes when you are playing this, the spawns will just go haywire, and they won't be what they usually are. Now, I sometimes will get a jumping attack on this guy with the vest here, but he takes too long to come out based on my movements. So I usually don't like to get a jumping attack. Jumping attacks, though, are very helpful on some enemies that we're going to have to deal with. Now, when you are hanging over enemies, when you're like in a position like I am now, and you want to drop on an enemy, and even if there are rungs below you, you know how you have to press and hold circle to go through the rungs that are in between you and other enemies. Well, don't even worry about that logic, because even if there aren't any obstructions below you and an enemy, this doesn't work very well as far as whether you're gonna jump onto the enemy. It's completely inconsistent, and it works even less when there are rungs between you and an enemy, or if you are on top of a ladder. Sometimes, I'm telling you, she won't even do that gesture where it indicates that you can fall onto an enemy, and it still will work, and vice versa. So if you are going to do a dropping attack on an enemy, I don't mean an aerial attack from like one train car to the next. I'm talking about if you're hanging off a ledge and an enemy is directly below you. This would be an aerial attack. These always work properly. They always lock on great. But you're just gonna have to take a chance if you are gonna drop on an enemy. So there's a guy up here, but since we're gonna be coming through him later on, I'm gonna take care of these heavies over here. Now, taking care of these heavies is very difficult. This one stands by a window, but if you do go out the window and try to pull him out of that window, the enemies on the next platform car, they can see you, so you need to really be careful. In fact, I would say it's too risky to do it, and what I would recommend, see how they saw me, but they didn't even do anything as far as moving towards me very much. But the main problem is the long struggle animation that it takes. So you're gonna have to really observe the paths of these enemies, and only go after them when you're completely certain that you have enough time to take them out. Now, the next car is the last one that has any enemies on it. If there's ever more than 2 enemies, that's not how it's supposed to be. There's only supposed to be 2 enemies. So if there are more than 2, something's gone haywire, and it's going to be harder for you to do it. Now, when you take care of this heavy over here, you want to make sure that the other heavy is not to the left like he is now. You want to wait until he is moved over to the right as far as possible, because then he will go forward towards the other enemy, and then you have enough time to take care of him. Now, since I have that guy on top of this car that has to be taken care of, we're gonna have to kill him. And the reason I left him anyway is because I think it's safer to do a jumping attack on this heavy rather than engage. Never rush him from right here. You won't get by without being seen. Now, there's just 2 guys on that other car, right? So if you get a jumping attack on the heavy, it's a very quick thing, and you can get it done without much fuss or any fanfare. And the other enemy, provided he's looking in the opposite direction, you should not have any problems. If you are going to engage in the struggle animation, though, I've never done it. I've failed to it once, but it was the fault of me not correctly judging the path of the other enemy. So I imagine it's doable to do the struggle animation on the ground on him, but since the lock-on works so well with the aerial jumping attack, I would say that you definitely want to do that rather than the struggle animation, because it just takes too long, and you don't get control of your character back fast enough a lot of times. Oh, another problem is when you are jumping off ledges, there's that age-old problem of there being no invisible railing to stop you from, instead of doing your jump, it will stop you and then you'll be hanging off the ledge, and then the chances of you recovering from that and going back into cover are very low. So I wish there was some kind of option to put invisible railing on ledges and such like that, so you wouldn't run into that problem. But I'm sure they probably thought of that and they couldn't figure out anything to do about that. But there's just one guy over here left, and I really don't want to screw this up, so I'm gonna really be careful as I snag this guy. But that is a very difficult stealth section, and like I said, fortunately that's the only stealth section. And as far as you picking up grenades and things like that, having a grenade or two is helpful on a couple parts. So, don't go out of your way, though, to like get sniper rifles and outfit yourself with the best things you need. Because even on these combat sections, we're just going to be jumping from the cars, and we're not going to be shooting enemies. There's one point, I think, where I throw a grenade into a flatbed truck, and it worked pretty well. And then also later, when you're turning a crank with Sam, it's helpful to have a grenade. But they give you a good checkpoint anyway, so it's not like you're going to be suffering for want of a grenade, But when you do get over here, you're going to start to jump onto the 4x4s. And what this is you don't want to be just on the train shooting enemies. That's really not desirable. So you want to be jumping onto these. Look at that, Jesus Christ. I love how that works. But you're going to be jumping into the 4x4s, using them until they're about ready to explode. And it's all about just getting progress down this mountainside. So there is also a checkpoint at some point as well. So once you do cross the game's requirement for the driving, the length of how long you need to drive, you will get a checkpoint. I didn't avail myself of it because although I got the checkpoint once, I chose to reset the encounter instead because it was too hard to put an edit in to the action. So I just wanted the seamlessness of not having that. And it's not that difficult, honestly, because all you need to do is just get to a certain location and then grapple onto the car that has the turret on it. And then when you are using the turret, it's a very short amount of time involved to do what you need to do. And what you need to do is prevent yourself from getting sniped. That's one of your goals. And then you need to be shooting propane tanks on either side of a truck that an ultra heavy is on. So you're going to be picking and choosing what side you want. I would focus on the side that has the guy with the sniper, which is the left. So you can do that if you want to, but it isn't vital. Trust me, it's not vital. But you want to be going after the propane tanks. Those are the key, because you can get killed nearly in a blink of an eye. So you need to follow suit by killing everything as fast as you possibly can, because just doing it ordinarily without taking advantage of those propane tanks is suicide. Now, they hide the propane tanks behind pieces of wood that are colored red. And the checkpoint's really good here. They put you right here. So even if you die 10 times, it's not that bad. See the pieces of wood that are red? You shoot those, and then those are the propane areas. And then there's the guy with the sniper. You want to take care of him. Shoot the propane tanks, and then... Oh, there is a sniper on the other side. I'm sorry. And then the ultra heavy is going to be surrounded by propane tanks. So don't even focus on him. Just shoot one of their propane tanks, and then you've done it. And then we almost should be on the boss, if I'm not mistaken. We've got some traversal to do, and I really like the boss. with the exception of it's difficult to ascertain where the cutscenes start and stop on this boss. So it's a little bit of an editing nightmare. But I really do like the succinctness of the boss in a game that I don't really feel is suited for boss battles in the first place. It's just, in my opinion, it's just not that type of game. And there are like 5 phases to the boss, but every phase is like 5 seconds, so it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's incredibly easy, and it's just a nice finish to a really good campaign. This game came out in 2017 or 2018, and it feels like a really satisfying and lengthy, campaign that was reasonably priced. If I remember, it was only $40, and it's just a gorgeous game. And I think in a moment we will be fighting the boss, but we might have some combat to do. Not combat, but jeep traversal. So this is welded shut, unfortunately, and I think we might be back on the 4x4. Yeah. Okay, so I don't think there's anything of note here. We are gonna, I think we meet up with Sam over here, and on these sections, even though your car does smoke, you won't have a game over screen, probably, unless you just prolonged it for an excessive amount of time. But having a grenade on the next part is pretty helpful because you do get ambushed, and as usual, they give you horrendous cover, but it's really not even an entire fight when you think about it, because it's just a few guys. But it's right over here, and I really hope that this walkthrough was helpful to you. And I realize that if you are playing this for the first time, you might not be using it for a stealth walkthrough, per se. But since this game is so heavily tailored to stealth, and since the majority of walkthroughs will forego stealth, at least on getting seen, they'll just do gun battles. I'm just talking about the majority of walkthroughs that I've seen. People will engage in the stealth, and that's perfectly fine. That's great. Do it, But I was just trying to differentiate my walkthrough from the other walkthroughs in a humble way that I could. But anyway, having the grenade was helpful there, and then Sam is going to fend off some enemies for us as we progress up here. And I do have the trophy coming up at the end of the video as well. If you remember, at the end of my Uncharted 4 walkthrough, there was an issue where I had it wasn't a corrupted file, but the quality for some reason was extremely degraded, and I had to re-record the file with Shadowplay and tune the color and brightness and contrast and things like that to make it appear less ugly than it was. But on this, fortunately, everything was perfectly fine. The trophy appeared right away, and I was surprised actually, because they have these unskippable cutscenes at the end. Unskippable credits. And I was worried that I would have to watch the credits, but I didn't have to sit through those 30 minutes of credits. I really hate when games do that, Just give me the courtesy of, I spent 30 hours playing your game. Don't make me spend another 30 minutes watching credits of people that I don't know and will never know, and But here's the assault boss fight. It's basically just punching him. Your attacks do get deflected by him, But after a series of punches that he does, he'll get winded, fall, turn around, and then you punch him. So this is like a series of 3 or 4 encounters, but it's quite easy. Now, this part over here, now, I mean, it really is easy compared to like the Wraith boss fight. This is nothing. It really is nothing. But on this particular checkpoint, though, he comes at you really fast. So even as the screen is going from black to color, transitioning, he's already coming at you. So you have to dodge a couple of times there. And I think I died over here. You have to watch out for the obstacles there. There's a couple instant death moments back there, but they give you a nice checkpoint, and it's perfectly fine to to reset if you need to. And we've just got a couple more moments here, and for some reason I didn't die on the the bit where you're running towards the screen. I usually die on this a whole bunch of times, but fortunately I didn't die. And I hope that the walkthrough was helpful in the way that you needed it to be. Now, it's hard to always judge what that's going to be in advance, so I just kind of do my own thing and just hope for the best where people are concerned, and giving them the best advice and the most practical advice that they can tailor to their own particular style of playing the game. Okay, so The Lost Legacy has been a labor of love, and it's been taking a long time, but it was definitely worth it. So the trophy is going to appear right here, and I will see you in my next project. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all of the support, and until I see you again, please take care.